At Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law raised her glass and said loudly, "Starting today, I am going to manage everything for this family. Amelia, your credit card has been canceled." My husband decided it was for the best. Everyone celebrated. I just smiled and said, "Son, you really do not know, do you?" He froze as if his heart had stopped beating. My daughter-in-law screamed, "Know what? Let me tell you how I arrived at that moment." How a night that was supposed to be full of joy turned into the instant my own son stabbed me in the chest without even realizing what he was doing. If these life stories move, you subscribe to the Dust Revenge channel to keep listening to confessions like this one. Like this video and join me until the end because nobody expected what comes next. My name is Amelia. I am 68 years old, and that Christmas Eve, dressed in my wine-colored wool shawl that I had knitted myself, I was sitting at the head of the table in my own house, watching my family celebrate my humiliation. The table was set with the embroidered tablecloth I sewed 30 years ago. The scented candles gave off the smell of cinnamon. The golden turkey rested in the center, surrounded by mashed potatoes and green bean casserole. Everything looked perfect. Everything except what was about to happen. Ashley, my daughter-in-law, stood up. She was wearing a tight peach-cold dress that showed off her 5-month baby bump. Her brown hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders. She smiled with that security that only people who think they have already won possess. She raised her glass of cider and tapped the crystal gently with a spoon. The clinking sound caught everyone's attention. My son, Michael, sitting next to her, looked at her with adoration. My sisters-in-law, the wives of my nephews, stopped talking. The children running around the living room stopped. Even the Christmas music seemed to lower in volume. Family Ashley began with a firm and clear voice. "Today is a special day not only because of Christmas, but because I have an important announcement to make." I felt a knot in my stomach. Something in her tone warned me that this would not be about the baby. As you know, Michael and I are expecting our first child. This makes us think about the future and responsibilities. She paused dramatically, letting her words float in the air. "That is why we have made a very important family decision." Michael nodded beside her, looking serious with that expression he used when he thought he was doing the right thing. Ashley continued, "Starting today, I'm going to manage all the finances of this family. It is time for someone young with modern financial education to take control of things." The silence was so thick you could hear the candles crackling. "Amelia," she said, turning to me with a smile that did not reach her eyes, "your credit card was canceled this morning. Michael and I decided it is better this way. At your age, you do not need to worry about expenses or responsibilities. We will take care of everything. If you need anything, just ask for it in advance, of course." The words fell like stones into a calm lake, but the lake was not me. The lake was my family. My sisters-in-law exchanged looks of approval. One of them, Sarah, even applauded softly. "What a good idea, Ashley. My mother-in-law should do the same. These older ladies are a disaster with money." The nephews laughed. Someone clinked their glass with Ashley's. Michael smiled proudly as if he had just solved a problem no one else had seen. And me, I just watched them. I watched how my 32-year-old son, the boy I raised alone after becoming a widow, the man I shaped with tears and sacrifice, looked at me as if I were a burden that he had finally learned to manage. I felt something break inside me. It was not rage, not yet. It was something deeper. It was the confirmation of a suspicion I had held for 3 years since the day Ashley entered our lives. I took a sip of my fruit punch. The bitter-sweet taste reminded me of all the previous Christmases when Michael and I were just the two of us sharing pot pie at our small table, laughing because I had burned the turkey. Now we were here in this house that he believed was mine, surrounded by people celebrating my defeat. I set the glass on the table. The sound resonated louder than I expected. All eyes turned toward me. Ashley remained standing, expectant, waiting for my reaction. She wanted to see me cry. She wanted me to beg. She wanted me to break. But instead of that, I smiled. It was a calm smile, almost sweet. The smile of someone who knows something the others ignore. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of my 68 years in my knees. I looked my son directly in the eyes, those honey-cold eyes he inherited from his father. Eyes that once looked at me with pure love before the poison of ambition clouded them. "Son," I said softly with a calm voice. "You really do not know, do you?" Michael blinked. His smile froze. Something in my tone made him doubt. "Know what, Mom?" he asked with an insecure voice. Ashley stepped forward nervously. "Now what?" she repeated, but now her voice had an edge of panic. I did not answer immediately. I just looked at both of them. And in that silence, in that pause, loaded with meaning, I saw how doubt began to slide down their faces like cold water. Because they knew nothing. They did not know who I really was. They did not know what I had built in 40 years of silence. They did not know that the woman they had just publicly humiliated was the only one who held the keys to the kingdom they thought they were conquering. The table fell into complete silence. Only the ticking of the wall clock and the crackling of the wood in the fireplace could be heard. And there I was, Amelia, the widow, the seamstress, the selfless mother, the woman they had just underestimated for the last time. But to understand why that question froze them, I need to take you back in time. I need to tell you who I am, where I come from, and how I built an empire in the shadows while everyone thought I was just a harmless little old lady. Because the worst had not happened yet. 40 years ago, I was not Amelia the humiliated mother-in-law at a Christmas dinner. I was Amelia, the 28-year-old widow who had just buried her husband while 7 months pregnant and with a mountain of debt that threatened to bury her alive. I remember the day of the funeral as if it were yesterday. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds that never quite released the rain. James' coffin rested underground in the local cemetery. I was there in my black dress, borrowed from a neighbor, feeling my son kicking inside my belly, as if protesting his father's absence. I did not cry that day, not because I did not want to, but because my tears had already run out 3 days earlier when the doctor told me, "I am sorry, ma'am. We did everything possible." James had died in a traffic accident, a truck that ran a red light an instant, and everything we had built together vanished. What did not vanish were the debts. 2 weeks after the burial, there was a knock on my door. It was Mr. Henderson, the owner of the hardware store, where James had asked for credit to repair our roof. He handed me a crumpled paper with handwritten numbers. "Mrs. Amelia, I regret disturbing you in your morning, but it is $50,000. Your husband signed the house deed as a guarantee. I felt the ground open beneath my feet. $50,000 in 1985. That was a fortune, and I was a seamstress earning barely enough to eat by hemming pants and fixing zippers. I closed the door. I sat on the living room floor. My hand caressed my swollen belly, and for the first time since James died, I spoke out loud. Forgive me, my child. Your mom does not know how we are going to get out of this. But I swear by God that we are going to make it. I had no plan, I had no money, I barely had strength. But I had a Singer sewing machine that my grandmother had left me, and I had hands that knew how to turn fabric into dreams. The next day, I walked 6 blocks to the house of Mrs. Stella Vanderbilt, a high society lady who had once asked me to fix an imported dress. I knocked on her wrought iron door with my heart in my throat. When she opened, she saw me there pregnant with dark circles under my eyes, reaching my soul holding a worn portfolio full of my hand-drawn designs. "Mrs. Vanderbilt," I said with a trembling but firm voice, "I need work anything, but I promise you that if you give me a chance, you will never find anyone who sews better than me." She looked me up and down. Then to my surprise, she smiled. "Come in, child, let's have coffee." That afternoon changed my life. Mrs. Vanderbilt did not just give me work, she gave me an education. She taught me that sewing was not just a craft, it was a business. She explained profit margins, how to charge by design and not just by the hour, about the importance of having clients who paid well instead of many who paid little. Amelia, she told me one day while we drank tea in her garden full of flowers, "You have a gift, but a gift without strategy is like having gold without knowing you have it. I am going to invest in you. I am going to lend you money so you can buy more machines and quality fabrics and rent a small workshop. And you are going to pay me back when you start earning. There is no rush, but there is a condition. Never settle for being just a seamstress. Become a businesswoman." 2 months later, Michael was born. A beautiful baby weighing 7 LEBs with his father's eyes and my upturned nose. I held him in my arms in that small public hospital room and whispered to him, "You are going to have everything I did not have. I promise you." And I kept that promise. I worked like never before, from 5 in the morning to 11 at night. Michael slept in a cradle next to my sewing machine. The sound of the mechanical pedal became his lullaby, while I sewed wedding dresses, sweet 16 gowns, and gala outfits. He grew up surrounded by colored threads and scraps of silk. With the money Mrs. Vanderbilt lent me, I opened my first workshop, Amelia's Fine Couture, in a small space downtown. I hired 2 girls from the neighborhood who knew how to sew. I taught them everything Mrs. Vanderbilt had taught me. The first 6 months were hard. There were nights I ate only beans and bread to be able to buy more fabric. But little by little, the business grew. The society ladies began to recommend me. "You have to go with Amelia. That girl sews like the angels." And with every dress I delivered, my reputation grew. 3 years after James's death, I had already paid all his debts, every dollar down to the last cent. Mrs. Vanderbilt came to visit me at the workshop the day I made my last payment. She hugged me tight and said, "I'm proud of you, child. Now comes the hard part, growing." And I grew. I opened a second workshop, then a third. I started selling not only to private clients, but to elegant boutiques. I registered my brand, Mrs. Vanderbilt introduced me to an accountant, to a lawyer. She taught me to invest. The money you earn is not for spending. Amelia, it is for making it grow. Buy properties, rent them out. Create passive income. I did not understand well what passive income meant, but I learned. Oh, how I learned. I bought my first commercial space when Michael was 8 years old, a small store on a well-located corner. I rented it to a lady who sold groceries. Every month she paid me $1,000 and $500, money that came in without me having to sew a single button. Michael studied in a public school. He wore mended uniforms. We ate simply. We lived in the same humble house that James had left us. But in secret, I was building an empire. After 10 years of widowhood, I already had 3 commercial spaces rented out. At 15 years, it was 5. I bought properties in areas that were growing before they went up in price. I invested in bank certificates. I saved every dollar as if it were the last. And never did I tell Michael anything. I wanted my son to grow up with hunger, with a desire to strive. I wanted him to value money because he had seen it be scarce, so he would not become one of those spoiled rich kids who waste fortunes because they never had to earn them. So I kept the facade, the seamstress widow, the struggling mother, the simple woman who barely got by. When Michael turned 18 and entered to study industrial engineering at the Technological University, I told him I'd gotten a full scholarship. In reality, I paid every dollar of his tuition, thousands every semester. When he graduated and got his first job as a junior engineer earning a decent salary, he was so proud. He hugged me and said, "Mom, now I am going to take care of you. You do not have to work so hard anymore." I laughed. I caressed his face. "Oh, my child, if you only knew." But I said nothing. By then, I already had 8 commercial properties, all rented, generating $20,000 monthly in passive income. I had 3 luxury apartments in the upscale district that I had bought at a bargain price during the economic crisis, and I had nearly $500,000 in bank investments. My total net worth exceeded several $1,000,000, and Michael believed his mother barely survived sewing dresses. I did it out of love for protection because I wanted him to become a man by his own merits. But I never imagined that silence, that white lie, would become the weapon they would one day use to sink me. Because 3 years later, Michael met Ashley at a corporate party, and everything began to change. She came into my life like fog comes in slowly, almost imperceptibly, but covering everything until you can no longer see the path. And I, who had survived widowhood debts and 40 years of struggle, did not see coming what was about to happen until it was too late. Michael was 30 years old when he met Ashley. I was 65, and at that moment my son still did not know the truth about me. To him, I was the sacrifice mother living in a modest little house, who kept sewing dresses to stay active, who refused his offers of financial help with stubborn pride. "No, my love, I am fine. You save your money for your future." What Michael did not know was that that modest little house was barely one of my 9 properties. I had bought it 20 years ago for very little. Now it was worth 4 times as much, but I kept it simple on purpose. Cream-cold walls, old but comfortable furniture, a living room with that floral armchair he remembered from his childhood. Everything was theater, a stage carefully designed so my son believed his mother barely survived with dignity. Meanwhile, I kept building. At 65 years old, I had expanded my little empire. I had 8 commercial spaces rented in prime zones. 2 pharmacies, 3 medical offices, a cafe, a stationery store, and a beauty salon every month without moving a finger. $20,000 clean entered my bank accounts. I also owned 3 luxury apartments in the financial district that Mrs. Vanderbilt and I bought as partners when the market collapsed in 2008. We rented them to foreign executives for $4,000 a month each. My accountant, Mr. Thompson, a serious 60-year-old man with thick-rimmed glasses, visited me every 3 months to review the finances. He always knocked on my door at 9 in the morning when he knew Michael was already at work. Mrs. Amelia, he would tell me while we reviewed the account statements in my dining room, "Your investments keep growing. You are already at a very substantial amount in bonds and investment funds. Do you want to diversify more?" I would nod, taking notes in my hardcover notebook. The seamstress, who never finished high school, now understood annual returns, compound interest rates, and long-term investment strategies. Mrs. Vanderbilt had taught me well before dying 5 years ago. Her last will was to leave me her share of the properties we had bought together. "You paid me back every dollar I lent you, Amelia, and you gave me something more valuable. You showed me that betting on women is never a bad investment." But none of this existed for Michael. For him, I was still the widow who sometimes asked him to help change a light bulb or fix the leaking water faucet. I lied to him, yes, but I did it out of love. I wanted my son to learn the value of effort, to know how to earn things, so he would not become one of those men who squander inherited fortunes because they never sweated to get them. and it worked. Michael became a responsible, hard-working, honest engineer. He rented a small apartment, drove a used car saved every month. I was proud of him until Ashley arrived. He met her at an industrial engineering conference. She worked as a marketing manager at a consulting firm. 32 years old, university degree designer, clothes French perfume. She spoke with that security of someone born with open doors. Michael arrived to visit me one Saturday, radiant with that smile I had not seen since he was a child. Mom. I met someone special. My heart filled with joy. My son, always so shy, had finally found someone. What is her name? My love, Ashley. She is incredible mom. Intelligent, successful, beautiful. I want you to meet her. 2 weeks later, she knocked on the door of my house. She arrived in a white BMW. She wore large sunglasses, a leather bag I recognized as designer. I had sewn enough imitations to know the difference in heels that sounded authoritative against the floor. I opened the door with my apron still on hand, stained with flour because I was baking cookies. Ma'am, nice to meet you. I am Ashley. I am. She extended her hand. Her handshake was brief, almost dismissive. Her eyes scanned my house in 2 seconds. The old armchair, the ancient television, the faded curtains. I saw her expression change, a microsecond of disappointment, immediately covered with a professional smile. That day, we ate pot roast that I had prepared. Michael spoke excitedly about his plans together. Ashley nodded, but her eyes kept wandering around my house, evaluating, cataloging, judging. When they left, I sat in my floral armchair. Something in my stomach did not feel right, but I told myself, give it time, Amelia. You barely know her. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Michael and Ashley became boyfriend and girlfriend formally. He started to change. Small things at first. He stopped visiting me on Sundays, our sacred tradition since he was a child. Because Ashley organized brunches with her friends. He started wearing more expensive clothes, things I knew he could not afford on his salary. When I asked him, he told me, Ashley says I must invest in my professional image, Mom. One day he came to see me with a serious face. Mom, Ashley, and I are thinking about getting married. My heart jumped so fast, my love, you have only been together 8 months. It is just that. She is the one mom I know and well. He scratched the back of his neck nervously. There is something I want to ask you. I felt a chill. Tell me. Ashley thinks that well that when we get married, it would be good if you sold this house and came to live with us. She says it is too big for you alone, that you are already older, that you need someone to take care of you. There it was. The first move on the board. I smiled calmly. Oh, my boy, I am perfectly fine here. This house has my memories, my sewing workshop. I cannot imagine myself anywhere else. Michael frowned. But Mom, Ashley is right. What happens if you fall and there is no one? If you get sick, we could take care of you better. Take care of you. That phrase, as if I were an invalid old woman who needed supervision. Son, I am 65 years old, not 90. I keep working, walking, living my life. When the moment comes that I need help, I will let you know. But that moment is not today. I saw the frustration in his eyes, but he nodded. Okay, Mom, I just want you to be well. They left, but that conversation planted a seed of worry in my chest. 3 months later, they got married. A discreet wedding in an elegant garden. 150 guests. Imported wedding dress that cost thousands. Michael confessed it to me, ashamed when I asked. I attended in my best dress, one I had sewn especially for the occasion. Champagne-colored silk fabric, discreet embroidery. Several guests asked me who had made it. I felt proud, but during the reception, I heard Ashley talking with her friends near the bar. They did not see me. Is that your mother-in-law, the one in the gold dress? Yes, Ashley replied with a sigh. Poor Michael raised alone with her. The woman could never give him anything. Does she live alone? Yes, in an old little house downtown. Michael wants her to come live with us when we buy a house, but I do not know. Imagine having her there all the time. Her friends laughed. One said, "Well, at least you do not have to worry about complicated inheritances, right? There's nothing to fight over." Ashley smiled. Exactly. That is the advantage. No money dramas. I walked away before they saw me. My hands trembled while I held my glass of champagne. I breathed deep. "Calm down, Amelia," I told myself. "Let them think what they want." But something inside me changed that night. I realized that Ashley had not only misjudged my economic situation, she had built her entire plan based on a lie that I myself had created, and now my silence was becoming my worst enemy. The following 2 years were a slow but constant escalation. Ashley convinced Michael to buy a house in an exclusive gated community. They took out a huge mortgage. Michael worked 12 hours a day to pay the monthly installments of $3,000. I saw him exhausted every time he came to visit me, now only once a month. "Are you okay, son?" "Yes, Mom. Just tired, but it is worth it." Ashley is happy in the new house. Ashley got pregnant. Michael was on cloud 9. I knitted blankets for my grandson, embroidered sheets, prepared homemade preserves, but every time I visited their house, I felt the change. Ashley treated me with cold courtesy. She offered me tea and chipped mugs while she drank coffee in fine porcelain. She made me wait in the living room when I arrived because she was busy, and Michael, my son, saw nothing. He was so submerged in work and pleasing his wife and preparing for fatherhood that he did not notice how they were displacing me from his life until that Christmas arrived. The dinner, the toast, the announcement, and my question that froze everything. "Son, you really do not know, do you?" Because the moment had arrived, I could no longer remain silent. Not when my own son was burying me alive. Allow me to go back a little more. I need you to understand exactly who Ashley Sanchez was, because what my son saw in her and what she really was were two completely different things. He met her at an industrial innovation conference at a fancy hotel downtown. Michael had gone forced by his boss without much desire. She was there representing her consulting firm with a badge that said Strategic Marketing Manager. Ashley was 5'6", straight brown hair, always perfectly ironed, impeccable makeup that gave her that magazine look, nude, gel nails, clothes that screamed money, fitted blazers, silk blouses, high heels that she deliberately made click against the marble to attract attention. She spoke with that neutral accent of someone who studied in bilingual private schools. She used words in English in the middle of her sentences. It is a very corporate topic. You know, we have to think about personal branding. Michael was dazzled. My son, so simple, so noble, had never met someone like that. For him, Ashley represented that sophisticated world to which he had never had access. What he did not know was that it was all a facade, smoke mirrors. Ashley grew up in a rough neighborhood in a family that once had money. Her father, Herman, had owned an auto parts distributor. They lived well for years. 3-story house, 2 cars, vacations at the beach. But when Ashley was 23 years old, the business went bankrupt. Bad investments, fraudulent partners, debts that accumulated like an avalanche. They lost the house, the cars, everything. Her father fell into depression. Her mother, Rebecca, had to start selling costume jewelry at flea markets to survive. But Ashley decided that never, ever would she be poor again. She got a job at the consulting firm lying on her resume. She added certifications she did not have. She exaggerated her experience. She was good at talking, at selling smoke, at making mediocre projects sound revolutionary in PowerPoint. She earned a decent salary, but she spent double that. How credit cards, 5 in total. She rotated them like a desperate juggler. She paid the minimum of one with cash from another. She bought brand name clothes in sales. She carried pirate bags so good that no one noticed the difference. She rented, she did not buy. The white BMW she drove was leased. The jewels she wore were borrowed from her cousin, who worked in a jewelry store. Everything was a lie, but it was a lie so well built that no one questioned it until she met Michael. That day at the conference, she evaluated him in 30 seconds. Industrial engineer, 30 years old, modest car but clean suit, not very expensive but well ironed. Simple watch, no ring. She calculated. This man is not rich, but has potential. Professional, stable, and best of all, shy, malleable. She approached with a glass of wine in her hand. First time at these conferences, you look lost. Michael blushed. Is it that obvious? Ashley laughed a studied musical laugh. Relax. I cannot stand these events either. Do you want me to teach you the trick to survive them? Follow me. And that is how it all started with a conversation. With that capacity, Ashley had to make the other person feel special, seen important. Michael fell completely. They went out 3 times before she allowed him a kiss. She played her cards well. She played hard to get. She told him an edited version of her life. Ancestral family that had gone through difficult times but maintained its dignity. My family lost everything. She told him one night with perfectly measured tears. But they taught me that the last name, the education, the class, nobody takes that away from you. Michael Noble has always hugged her. I understand. My mom raised me alone. I know what it is to struggle. Ashley smiled against his chest. Perfect. A man with a savior complex. When Michael finally introduced her to me, I already knew something did not add up. Let's call it instinct. Let's call it experience. 40 years building businesses had taught me to read people. The way Ashley shook my hand, that quick dismissive squeeze, her eyes evaluating every corner of my house, cataloging the value of things. The way she smiled, but her gaze remained cold. I knew that look. I had seen it in clients who came to my workshop with fake bills and suppliers, who sold me defective fabric and potential partners who only wanted to steal my designs. It was the look of someone who is always calculating. What can I get out of this? How does it benefit me? During that first meal, we talked about trivialities, but I asked questions. Soft, casual, and your family. Ashley, what do they do? My father was in the automotive sector. He is already retired. Oh, really? Where do you live right now? In an apartment in the nice part of town. It is small but cozy. She omitted that she rented it with 2 roommates to be able to afford it. And in the consulting firm? What type of projects do you manage there? She hesitated. Just a second, but I saw it. Brand strategy, positioning, that kind of thing. Michael looked at her infatuated. He did not see the contradictions. He did not notice how she evaded concrete details. When they left, I called my accountant. Mr. Thompson, I need you to investigate someone discreetly. He looked at me surprised. In all our years working together, I had never asked him for something like that. Mrs. Amelia, it is for Michael. I need to know who my son is going out with. 3 weeks later, I had a 12-page report on Ashley Sanchez. Credit card debts, thousands of dollars. Credit history bad too. Personal loans and collections, real salary much less than she told Michael. Family unemployed, father, mother selling informal goods, younger brother with addiction problems. They lived in a subsidized apartment in a rough neighborhood. Everything Ashley had told Michael was a made-up, stretched, retouched version of reality. I sat in my armchair with that report in my hands. My instinct told me, get her away from your son. Show him this. Protect him. But something stopped me. Michael was in love genuinely. I saw it in his eyes when he talked about her. And if I arrived with proof, with papers unmasking her, what would happen? He would hate me. He would see me as the meddling mother-in-law, the controlling mother who does not want to let go of her son. Besides, part of me understood Ashley. I had been in her place, young, scared trying to survive in a world that judges you by your bank account. I had also lied. I had exaggerated. I had pretended to be more than I was to get clients. Maybe I thought maybe Michael's love will change her. Maybe she will find stability with him and stop chasing ghosts of wealth. I put the report in my safe and I decided to wait. It was the biggest mistake of my life. Because Ashley was not looking for love. She was looking for economic salvation. And she had decided that Michael and eventually me were her ticket out. The following months were a masterclass in manipulation. Ashley started planting seeds, casual conversations that seemed innocent but had poison in the roots. Love, does your mom not have other relatives to help her? It must be hard for her to be so alone. Have you thought about your mom's future? I mean, when she can no longer fend for herself, how nice that you keep visiting her every Sunday. Although, do you not think we should start building our own traditions as a couple? Little by little, Michael started seeing me differently. I was no longer his mother, strong and independent. I was becoming the little old lady who needed protection, the future burden that had to be managed. When they announced their engagement, Ashley visited me alone. For the first time, she knocked on my door on a Tuesday afternoon. She wore designer jeans and a spotless white blouse. Perfect smile. "Mother-in-law, can we talk?" I made her coffee. We sat in my dining room. "I want us to be friends," she began. "You are very important to Michael, and that is why you are important to me." I nodded, waiting. "I know you have struggled a lot, that you raised Michael alone. That speaks of an incredible woman." Dramatic pause. "That is why I want you to know that when we get married, you will never be alone. We are going to take care of you as a family." Her words sounded sweet, but her eyes studied me, looking for cracks, weaknesses. "I thank you, Ashley, but I am fine. I do not need anyone to take care of me." Something crossed her face. Annoyance quickly covered with another smile. Of course. I just want you to know that you can count on us for whatever." She left half an hour later, but she left something in the air. A silent warning. "You are in my way," her eyes said, "and I am going to move you." That night, I took the report out of my safe. I read it again, and I made a decision. I was not going to interfere yet, but I was not going to lower my guard either. Ashley wanted to play fine, but she did not know who she was messing with because I had built an empire from zero. I had survived widowhood debts, discrimination. I had learned to fight in a world that gives you nothing. And if Ashley thought a little old seamstress was easy prey, she was about to discover her mistake, the most expensive mistake of her life. The wedding was just the beginning. What came next was a systematic, calculated, almost surgical campaign to erase me from my son's life. Ashley did not attack head-on. She was too smart for that. Instead, she worked like humidity, slow and visible, but destroying the foundations from within. The first 6 months of marriage were relatively calm. Michael visited me every 2 weeks. Ashley always had an excuse not to join him. "I have a meeting. My head hurts. I am tired from work." I prepared his favorite food, mole poblano, with red rice like when he was a child. We sat in my dining room and he told me about his life, but I noticed changes. Small at first. Michael started arriving with new clothes that I knew he could not afford. Brand name shirts, Italian shoes. Ashley says I must look more professional to grow in the company. He explained to me he changed his cell phone for the newest model. Ashley bought it as a wedding gift. They bought expensive furniture for the house. Ashley found an incredible offer. Every sentence began with "Ashley says," "Ashley thinks," "Ashley wants." My son was becoming an echo of his wife. One Sunday, 8 months after the wedding, Michael arrived with a strange expression. Worried, he sat in the armchair and looked at me with those eyes that always melted my heart. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." My stomach tightened. "Tell me, my love." "Ashley and I have been talking about your situation and we are worried." "My situation?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yes. Living alone at your age, Mom. You are already 66 years old. What happens if you fall? If you get sick? If someone tries to rob you? This house is old. The neighborhood is not so safe anymore." Every word was a repetition of something I was sure Ashley had planted in his head. "Michael, I am perfectly fine. I know all my neighbors. Mrs. Lapita next door brings me sweet bread every morning. Mr. Arthur helps me with repairs. I am not alone. I know Mom, but it is not enough." He breathed deep. "Ashley and I want you to come live with us." There it was. The first real play. "My love, I appreciate the offer." "Really? But this is my house. Here are my memories of your father, of when you were a child, my sewing workshop, my life." Michael rubbed his face, frustrated. "Mom, I know it is hard, but think about the future when you really cannot fend for yourself. Would it not be better to make the change now while you can still adapt?" The logic of his words was poisoned with good intentions. Ashley had trained him well. "Son, when that day comes, if it comes, we will consider it. But today is not that day. Is that clear?" I saw the disappointment in his eyes. He left half an hour later with the container of mole I had prepared, but with the weight of something unresolved between us. That night, I received a call. Ashley. First time she called me directly. "Mother-in-law, I'm very sorry if today's conversation made you uncomfortable. Michael is just worried about you." Her voice was poisoned honey. "I understand, Ashley, but there is nothing to worry about." Of course. It is just that." "Well, Michael told me that you sometimes forget things, names, dates, and at our age that can be a sign of—" "Excuse me." I interrupted her, feeling the rage rise up my spine. "What exactly did Michael tell you?" "Oh, I do not want to worry you. Probably it is just nerves. But he mentioned that last week you forgot that you had already agreed to meet, and it was a lie. Complete lie. Michael had canceled our appointment, not me." But Ashley was rewriting history, planting doubts about my mental health. "Ashley," I said with a firm voice, "my mind is perfectly clear. I manage my finances, my house, my sewing business. I have not forgotten anything." There was a silence. Then her voice changed, colder. "Well, if you say so. We just wanted to help. But I understand you are proud. Michael warned me about that." She hung up before I could respond. I remained seated in the darkness of my living room holding the phone. Now I understood her strategy. She was not attacking me directly. She was attacking my credibility, with Michael painting me as the stubborn, forgetful old woman who does not recognize her own limitations. It was brilliant and dangerous. The following months, the campaign intensified. Ashley convinced Michael that I needed help organizing my important documents. One Saturday, they arrived together. Ashley brought a bright pink plastic folder. "Mother-in-law, we brought this so you can keep your important papers, birth certificates, deeds, medical documents. Where do you have them? Kept in a safe place." "Thank you." "But where exactly? It is important that Michael knows in case of emergency." Michael nodded, worried. "It is true, Mom. If something happens to you, I need to know where your documents are." I refused politely but firmly. "When it is necessary, I will inform you. For now, everything is under control." I saw the frustration in Ashley's eyes. She had not achieved access to my papers. Then she tried another tactic. She suggested that Michael help me manage my money. "Your mom should not worry about paying bills at her age. You could handle that for her. It would be one less burden." Michael proposed it to me during a visit. Mom, let me help you. I can pay your electricity, water, phone services from my account. You just tell me how much you spend a month and I take care of it. It is not necessary, son. I manage everything perfectly. But Mom. Michael? My voice was harder than usual. I appreciate your intention, but I do not need you to manage me. Is that clear? He blinked, surprised. I rarely spoke to him like that, but Ashley did not give up. Every rejected strategy was replaced by a new one. When Ashley got pregnant, everything changed speed. Michael arrived beaming to give me the news. Mom, I am going to be a dad. You are going to be a grandma. I hugged him with genuine tears. My grandson, a little piece of James living in this new generation. But Ashley used the pregnancy as a weapon. Mother-in-law, with the baby on the way, we are going to need space. And frankly, your house is bigger than our apartment. Have you thought about selling and buying something smaller? We could use that money for the baby's education. She said it casually during a family visit as if she were suggesting what to have for dinner. This house is not for sale, I replied. Oh, do not be offended. It is just a suggestion. But well, I understand you are attached. Although being realistic, when you are gone, the house is going to pass to Michael anyway. Would it not be better to use it now that the baby needs it? She spoke of my death, like someone talks about the weather with that chilling naturalness. Michael said nothing. He just looked at his plate uncomfortable. Then came the real blow. 1 month before the fateful Christmas, Michael arrived with papers. His face was serious, rehearsed. Mom, Ashley, and I consulted with a lawyer about asset protection. Asset protection, I repeated slowly. Yes, the lawyer says that at your age you should have everything in order just in case, and that the safest thing is that you transfer the house to my name now to avoid legal problems later. There it was. The final objective, my house. And why would we need to do that, Michael? To protect you, Mom. If the government, or if there are tax problems, or if someone tries to take advantage, they were excuses without substance. Phrases that Ashley had put in his head. And my bank documents, do they also need protection? Michael cleared his throat. Well, the lawyer suggested that it would be prudent for you to give me power of attorney, just as a precaution so I can help you if something happens. Power of attorney. Total access to my accounts, my assets, my life. I looked at my son. I really looked at him, and for the first time in 66 years, I did not recognize the man in front of me. Michael, I said softly, do you really think I cannot handle my own affairs? It is not that, Mom. Then what is it? Silence. Long, uncomfortable. Finally, he sighed. Ashley says, I do not care what Ashley says. My voice cut the air like a razor. I am asking you what you think. I saw him hesitate. For a second, I saw my real son there struggling to come out. But then he clenched his jaw and said, I think Ashley is right. You are stubborn, Mom, and that could get you in trouble. Every word was a stab, but I breathed and I took the papers. I read them carefully. They were to transfer my house, the smallest one valued at a modest amount, to his name. Okay, I said finally. Michael seemed surprised. Really? Yes. If this gives you peace of mind, son, I will do it. I signed right there with Mr. Thompson as witness, whom I had called previously. Of course, Michael hugged me. Thank you, Mom. This is for the best. You will see. What he did not know is that that house was my least valuable property, that I had 8 other properties generating millions that I had just given him crumbs, while the true banquet remained hidden. But I needed them to believe they had won, that they had gotten everything I had. Because when they discovered the truth, the fall would be much more painful. And that Christmas, that damn Christmas, the moment of the toast arrived. The moment when Ashley, drunk on power and champagne, announced that now she would control everything, that my card had been canceled, that I was officially under her administration. And everyone applauded my family, my blood celebrating my humiliation. But then I smiled and asked, "Son, you really do not know, do you?" And Ashley's world began to crumble. But before arriving at that revelation at Christmas dinner, I need you to understand the hell I lived those last 3 months. Because Ashley did not just want my money. She wanted my dignity, my spirit. She wanted to see me on my knees. And she almost succeeded. After signing the transfer of the house, something changed. Ashley no longer pretended. She had gotten what she believed was my only asset, so the masks fell. The first humiliation came 2 weeks later. It was Sunday day of my monthly visit to Michael's house. I rang the doorbell at 2:00 in the afternoon as we had agreed. Ashley opened the door. She was wearing an ivory silk robe, hair up in a messy bun face without makeup. Her 4-month belly was already showing. Oh, mother-in-law. Did Michael not tell you today? We cannot receive you. We have important guests. Through the half-open door, I saw the living room empty. No guests. Michael confirmed to me yesterday to come today, I said, holding the container with tamales I had prepared since 5 in the morning. Ashley sighed as if I were a foolish child. Well, he told you wrong. Besides mother-in-law, we need to talk about these surprise visits. Now that the baby is coming, we cannot be receiving people without planning. Michael will call you to schedule when it is convenient. Schedule. I repeated the word as if it were poison in my mouth. I am his mother, not a dentist appointment. I know, but things change. You understand. She began to close the door. Leave me the tamales. I will give them to Michael. She extended her hand to take the container as if she were a delivery person, as if I were not the woman who had raised her husband alone for 30 years. No, I said, stepping back. These tamales are for my son. I will give them to him when I see him. Ashley narrowed her eyes. Whatever you want. Have a good day. The door closed in my face. I remained standing there on the porch of that pretty house in that elegant gated community, holding tamales that were getting cold, feeling smaller than I had felt in years. I returned to my house in a taxi. I did not eat. The tamales stayed in the refrigerator. 3 days later, I threw them away. They had spoiled like my relationship with my son. Michael called me the following Wednesday. "Mom, sorry about Sunday. Something came up last minute." He did not mention important guests. He did not mention that Ashley had kicked me out. Just an empty apology. "It is okay, son." I lied. Because what else could I say? The next humiliation was worse. Ashley called me a Tuesday afternoon. "Mother-in-law, I need to ask you a favor. Tell me. I have an appointment with the gynecologist tomorrow at 11 hour. Michael has a meeting and cannot accompany me. Could you take me? And while we are at it, help me with some shopping for the baby." Something in my chest rejoiced. Maybe this was an olive branch. Maybe we could start over. Of course, my child with pleasure. I arrived at her house at 10:30, punctual. I carried my bag with extra money in case they needed something for my grandson. Ashley came out dressed impeccably. Lavender maternity dress, low heels, brand name bag. She looked me up and down. I was wearing my normal clothes, jeans, embroidered blouse, comfortable shoes. "Oh, mother-in-law, are you going like that?" "Excuse me. No, nothing. It is just that we are going to the mall afterwards." But well, it does not matter. She said no more, but the message was clear. I looked bad. I was not at her level. In the office, the gynecologist received us. "Is this the mom?" she asked me, smiling. "No, it is the mother-in-law," Ashley corrected quickly. My mom had an unforeseen event. During the whole consultation, Ashley treated me as if I were invisible. She did not include me in the conversations. When the doctor asked something, she answered looking only at Ashley. "Do you have family support for when the baby is born?" "Yes, my mom is going to come help me the first months," Ashley replied. I was sitting there a meter away and she had just erased me. Afterwards, we went to the mall. Ashley entered an expensive baby store. Stroller, crib bottles, clothes. She was pointing at things. "I like this. This too. This, yes." The saleswoman added it up. Thousands of dollars. Ashley turned toward me. "Mother-in-law, can you help us with this? It is for your grandson." There it was, the real reason for inviting me. I took out my wallet. Inside, I had $300 in cash. It was what I normally carried. I brought $300 Ashley. I did not know we were going to buy so much. I saw her expression change. Disappointment, then contempt. $300. "That is it." She laughed a cruel laugh. "Well, I suppose it is what is possible. Leave them. I will pay the rest." She took out a gold credit card. "Surely Michael's and paid." The saleswoman looked at us uncomfortable. "Next time, let me know in advance," I said calmly, "and I can bring more." Ashley looked at me like one looks at an insect. "Do not worry, mother-in-law," I understood. Michael was right. You do not have much to contribute. Every word was a nail in my heart. On the way back, we did not talk. She left me at my house without even getting out of the car. That night, I cried. For the first time in years, I cried until I ran out of tears. But the worst was still to come. One Saturday, Michael called me. "Mom, we are going to have a family reunion next weekend. My cousins, their wives, the kids. Ashley wants everyone to see her belly. Can you come, of course, son? Should I bring something? No. No, just come." I arrived with a cake I had baked. Chocolate. Michael's favorite since he was a child. The house was full. Cousins, nephews, sisters-in-law, everyone well-dressed, drinking wine, laughing. Ashley was the center of attention with her tight dress, showing her belly, receiving congratulations. I entered with my cake. No one greeted me. I looked for Michael. He was in the garden with his cousins grilling meat. "Son, I brought cake." "Oh, thanks, Mom. Leave it in the kitchen." I went to the kitchen. There were the wives of my nephews, Sarah and Michelle, preparing salads. "Good afternoon," I greeted. "Oh, mother-in-law, how good that you came," said Sarah, but her tone was condescending. "Ashley told us that you already gave them the house. What a nice gesture." Michelle nodded. "Yes, how good. At your age, you no longer need those worries." I left the cake on the table. Where should I put it? Ashley entered at that moment. She saw my cake, wrinkled her nose. "Oh, mother-in-law, I told Michael not to bring anything. We already have dessert. We bought a cake from a French bakery." She pointed to an elegant box on the counter, "But thanks. We can save it for later." She took my cake, 3 hours of work made with love, and put it in the refrigerator in the back hidden. "Come, mother-in-law, let's go to the living room, but careful with the white armchair. It is new. Better sit on the wooden chair." She pointed me to a hard, uncomfortable chair in a corner. As if I were a punished child, I sat. I watched my family laugh, toast, celebrate. No one included me in the conversations. When I tried to participate, they ignored me or changed the subject. At mealtime, they served the plates. Grilled meat, gourmet salads, elaborate sides. They gave me a plate, but I noticed it had less meat than the others, more salad. As if they were rationing me. Ashley stood up with her glass. "Family. I want to thank you for being here. This baby is going to be born surrounded by love." She looked at everyone. Her eyes passed over me as if I were part of the furniture. I especially thank my mom, who is going to come take care of me after the birth. I do not know what I would do without her. Everyone applauded. I did not exist. I ate in silence. My cake never came out of the refrigerator. At 6 years in the afternoon, I left. No one noticed my absence. 2 weeks later, the final blow arrived before Christmas. I went to the bank to withdraw money from my personal account, the one that had the small pension from my sewing my facade account. I put my card in the ATM. Card blocked. Consult your bank. I entered the branch. The executive reviewed my account. Mrs. Amelia, your card was canceled by request of the authorized holder, a certain Michael Mendes. I felt the floor move. How it says here, he requested the cancellation a week ago as a protection measure for senior citizens. Michael had canceled my card without telling me, without consulting me. I called my son furious. Mom, wait. Let me explain. Ashley read an article about frauds against the elderly, and we thought it was better. We thought, or Ashley thought, Mom, do not get angry. It is for your protection. Now, if you need money, just tell me, and I give it to you. You give me of my own money. It is not like that. It is just that, give me back my card, Michael. I cannot, Mom. It is already decided. This is for the best. I hung up, trembling with rage and helplessness. That night, I took the documents out of my safe. I read them all, my properties, my investments, my secret empire, and I made a decision. Enough. The lie is over. Being invisible is over. Letting them trample me is over. If they wanted to play at controlling me, if they wanted to treat me like a useless old woman, if they wanted to humiliate me, I was going to teach them who Amelia really was, and Christmas would be the perfect stage. I called Mr. Thompson. I need you to prepare something for me. For Christmas dinner, bring all the documents, all of them. Are you sure, Mrs. Amelia, completely? Because Ashley had committed a fatal mistake. She believed that humiliating me would break me, but the only thing she did was wake the warrior who had been asleep for years. And when a woman who built an empire from scratch decides to fight, there is no mercy. Christmas morning, I woke up at 5, not out of habit, but because I could not sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed watching the darkness outside my window. The neighbors' Christmas lights twinkled weakly. I could hear distant carols from some nearby house. I touched the wine-cold shawl I had left prepared on the chair. I had knitted it myself 15 years ago when Michael turned 17. Every stitch carried a prayer, a wish for my son to be happy. Today, that same son would see me like never before. I showered, dressed carefully, black dress pants, hand-embroidered beige blouse, the shawl over my shoulders. Nothing ostentatious, nothing that called attention. I wanted to look exactly like what Ashley thought I was, a simple, defeated little old lady. At 8 in the morning, my doorbell rang. It was Mr. Thompson. He entered with a brown leather briefcase. He left it on my dining table with a solid thud. Inside was my real life, all the documents, all the proof. Are you completely sure about this, Mrs. Amelia? He asked, taking off his glasses to clean them. A nervous gesture he did when he was worried. More sure than ever, Mr. Thompson. It is going to change everything. Your relationship with your son. My relationship with my son already changed. I interrupted him. Michael decided who I am without asking me. Ashley decided what I am worth without knowing me. Today they are going to discover they were wrong. Thompson nodded slowly. What time do you want me to arrive at 9 at night? Michael said the toast would be at 9:30. You arrive just after the toast. I will call you. He left. I stayed alone in my house with the brown briefcase on the table. I opened it. I went over every document as if it were the first time I saw them. Deeds to 8 commercial properties, valued together millions of dollars. Lease contracts, monthly income, $20,000. 3 apartments in the financial district, valuation millions more. Monthly rents, $12,000. Investment certificates, funds, bonds, total substantial liquid assets. Total net worth over $7 million. And Michael knew nothing. Absolutely nothing. I closed the briefcase. I breathed deep. James. I whispered to the air, speaking to the ghost of my husband dead 40 years ago. I wish you were here. I wish you could tell me if I am doing the right thing. The silence was my only answer. At 6:00 in the afternoon, I took a taxi to Michael's house. I carried a container with my famous fruit punch, apples, guavas, cinnamon, and a bag with wrapped gifts for the baby due in March. The taxi stopped in front of the house, 2 stories, modern facade, manicured garden. The house Michael thought he could afford only with his effort. He did not know he was drowning in credit card debt, that Ashley used as if money were infinite. I rang the bell. Michael opened, smiling. He was wearing a ridiculous Christmas sweater with an embroidered reindeer. He hugged me. "Mom, how good that you arrived. Come in, come in." He smelled like his usual cologne. For a second, he was my boy again, the one who ran to hug me when he came back from school, the one who told me, "I love you, Mom," every night before sleeping. But then Ashley appeared. Tight peach dress, V-neckline hair in perfect waves, 5 months pregnant. She looked radiant, powerful. "Mother-in-law, how good that you could come." The emphasis on could was subtle, but venomous. The house was full. My nephews and their families had already arrived. Sarah and Michelle, the sisters-in-law, were in the kitchen laughing. Children ran through the living room. Everything smelled like roasted turkey and hot cider. I sat in the armchair. They indicated the same one from the last meeting, hard, uncomfortable in the corner. Ashley brought me a glass of cider. "Here you go, mother-in-law. Non-alcoholic, of course. At your age, alcohol is not good. I was 68 years old, not 90. But I said nothing. I just smiled. "Thank you, my child." The dinner went on normally. Well, normal for what my life had become. Conversations from which they excluded me. Looks that ignored me. Laughter that did not include me. I ate my turkey again, less portion than the others, and I watched, memorizing every face, every gesture of contempt. At 9 sharp, Ashley stood up. She tapped her glass with a spoon. The clinking silenced the conversations. "Family, it is time for an important toast." Everyone raised their glasses. Me too. Slowly, Ashley radiated confidence. She had practiced this moment. She had planned it. Today, we not only celebrate Christmas, we celebrate a new beginning for this family. Michael looked at her proudly. His cousins nodded expectant. "As you know, in March, our baby arrives. This has made us reflect on responsibilities on the future." She made a dramatic pause. Her hand caressed her belly. "That is why Michael and I have made an important decision." My heart beat slow, heavy like a war drum. "Starting today, I am going to manage all the finances of this family." Absolute silence. It is time for someone young, prepared with modern vision to take control. Michael has worked very hard. He deserves someone to optimize his resources. Several nodded. "Very well thought out," murmured Sarah. Ashley continued. And now her gaze locked on me like a predator that has its prey cornered. "Mother-in-law. I know this can be difficult to understand, but it is for the best. At your age, you should no longer worry about money, about paying bills, about deciding expenses." She smiled a smile that did not reach her eyes. "That is why this morning Michael and I canned your credit card." I heard muffled gasps, but not of indignation, of approval. "It was the right thing," added Michelle. "My mother-in-law should also do that. These older ladies sometimes spend on unnecessary things." Laughter. Damn laughter. Ashley raised her glass higher. "So let's toast to a prosperous future, to a baby who will be born into an organized family, to intelligent decisions." "Cheers," shouted everyone. They clink-ticked glasses. They drank. They celebrated. They celebrated my humiliation. Michael approached me. He touched my shoulder. "Mom, I know it is a change, but this is good. You will no longer have to worry about anything. If you need something, whatever it is, just ask me. I will give it to you." He looked at me with pity. My own son looked at me like one looks at a nuisance that must be managed. Ashley approached too radiant. "See, mother-in-law, now you can live calmly without stress like a granny should be." Everyone looked at me, waiting, wanting to see how the little old lady reacted if she cried, if she begged, if I broke. I left my glass on the table. The sound of crystal against wood resonated louder than I expected. I stood up slowly. I felt every one of my 68 years in my knees, but I stood tall, straight back, chin up. I looked at my son directly into those honey eyes that once looked at me with pure love, and I smiled. Not a sad smile, not a defeated smile, a calm, enigmatic, dangerous smile. "Son," I said softly. My voice cut the silence like a knife through butter. "You really do not know, do you?" Michael blinked. His smile froze. Something in my tone disconcerted him. "Know what, Mom?" The atmosphere changed like when the sky darkens before the storm. Everyone felt the change. The conversations died. The children stopped running. Ashley stepped forward with a sharp, nervous voice. "Know what, mother-in-law?" I did not answer immediately. I let the silence grow, let the tension become unbearable. I looked at both of them, then at my whole family one by one, recording their faces in my memory. "Mr. Thompson," I said, finally taking out my phone. "Can you come now?" I dialed. 2 rings. "Mrs. Amelia, bring the brown briefcase, please." "The family is ready." I hung up. Ashley looked at me with confusion that quickly turned into panic. What are you doing waiting?" I replied calmly. I sat back down. I crossed my hands on my lap. "You are going to meet someone important." Michael approached. "Mom, what are you talking about? Who is Mr. Thompson?" "My lawyer." Well, one of Michael, turned pale. "You have lawyers." "Several, my love." "When you handle a certain volume of assets, lawyers are necessary." The words fell like bombs. Sarah murmured, "Assets." Ashley laughed, a nervous, forced laugh. "Mother-in-law, I do not understand your jokes. What assets?" "If you barely have, what, Ashley?" I interrupted her. My voice was no longer soft, it was steel. "Finish the sentence." She opened her mouth. She closed it. She had no answer. 20 minutes later, the 20 longest minutes of their lives. The doorbell rang. Michael opened the door like an automaton. Mr. Thompson entered. 60 years old, thick glasses, impeccable gray suit, brown briefcase in hand. "Good evening, family," he greeted formally. "I am attorney Edward Thompson, accountant, and legal advisor to Mrs. Amelia for 20 years. 20 years. I let that number float in the air. He approached me. "Mrs. Amelia, attorney, please show them." He opened the briefcase on the dining table. He began to take out documents one after another. Deeds, contracts, certificates, account statements, the table filled with papers. Michael approached. He took one, he read it, he turned pale. This says you own a pharmacy downtown." "That is right." I confirmed. "I bought it 18 years ago for peanuts. Now it is worth almost $1 million. I rent it for thousands monthly." He took another document. His hands trembled. 3 medical offices in the Heights. I bought them in the crisis of 2008. Excellent investment. Another document. A cafe, a stationer's store, a beauty salon, all rented, passive income, son money that comes in without me lifting a finger. Ashley approached, staggering. She snatched documents. She read them with wild eyes. "This cannot be real. These are 3 apartments in the financial district." I continued. Each one valued at more than $1 million, rented to foreign executives, $40,000 monthly each. Mr. Thompson continued taking out papers like a magician pulling handkerchiefs from a hat. But these handkerchiefs were dynamite investment certificates, millions in funds, government bonds. The room was sepulchral silence. Only the rustling of paper could be heard. Sarah whispered, "My God." Michelle had let herself fall into a chair, mouth open. Michael looked at me as if I were a stranger. "Mom, what is all this?" I stood up slowly. I took one of the documents, the most important one. "This, my love, is who I really am. The seamstress widow you thought was your mother." That was only part of the story. I walked toward him. I put the document in his hands. Total net worth over $7 million, generating monthly income of $300,000 in rents and interest. Ashley emitted a sound, half moan, half stifled scream. But she stammered the house. "You gave us your house. They said it was all you had." I smiled, cold, calculating. "That house, the one you so kindly accepted to protect me, is my least valuable property. It is worth $850,000, 8% of my net worth." The math hit Ashley like a bucket of ice water. "I gave you crumbs." I continued. "While you believed you were conquering my kingdom, Michael dropped the papers." He put his hands to his head. "Mom, I do not understand why. Why did you never tell me?" And there it was, the question I had waited for. I approached my son. I touched his face like when he was a child, because I wanted you to love me for who I am not, for what I have. I wanted you to become a man by your own merits, not by my money. Tears rolled down my cheeks, the first genuine tears of the night. But Ashley taught you that money is worth more than love. That power is worth more than family. And today, my son, today you chose to humiliate the one who gave you life, believing you had rights over crumbs that did not even exist. The silence was deafening. Ashley was pale whiter than her wedding dress had been, because in that moment she understood her mistake. She had bet everything on a lie and she had just lost. Ashley was the first to react, but not how I expected. Not with apologies, not with shame, with fury. "This is a trap." She screamed, her voice breaking into a high-pitched shriek. "You lied to us. You deceived us. You made us believe you were poor." Her face was red. The veins in her neck stood out. Her hand grabbed her pregnant belly like a shield. "I never lied to you," I replied with glacial calm. "You assumed. You never asked what I had. I never asked you for financial help. I never said I was poor. You created that story in your head, but you did not tell us the truth either." Ashley turned to Michael, desperate. See how she is. Your mother is a manipulative liar." Michael was motionless in shock. He looked at the documents scattered on the table as if they were written in a foreign language. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "Allow me to clarify, Mrs. Ashley. Mrs. Amelia never committed fraud or illegal concealment. All her income is declared to the IRS. She pays taxes religiously. Her properties are registered correctly. Legally, there is nothing to claim." Ashley ignored him. She turned to the other guests looking for allies. "Do you hear this? This lady hid millions while watching her son kill himself working." Sarah and Michelle exchanged uncomfortable glances. They no longer looked so sure of themselves. "Michael was killing himself," I corrected. "Michael earned an honest salary doing honest work. I paid every dollar of his education, thousands per semester, for 5 years. I bought him his first car when he graduated. I helped him when he needed it. But I wanted him to learn to fend for himself, not to depend on inheritances to build his own life." "How convenient," spat Ashley. "What a nice speech. But the truth is, you enjoyed watching us suffer, watching us beg, feeling superior." Something inside me broke. The patience I had maintained for 3 years exploded. Suffer. My voice rose in volume. Suffer. "Do you know what suffering is, Ashley?" I took a step toward her. She shrank back. I was left a widow at 287 months pregnant with $50,000 in debt that threatened to take the roof over my head. I swed until my fingers bled. I ate beans so my son would have milk. That is suffering. I took a breath. My chest rose and fell with force. You suffered because you could not buy the designer bag you wanted because your leased BMW was not yours, because your credit cards were at the limit of $150,000 you spent on whims. Ashley turned pale. How I took another document from the pile. I threw it at her. It fell at her feet. Private investigation. I hired a detective a year ago when I started suspecting who you really were. She bent down to pick it up with trembling hands. She read it. Her face went from white to green. Your family went bankrupt when you were 23. Your father is unemployed. Your mother sells jewelry at flea markets. Your brother has addiction problems. They live in a subsidized apartment in the rough side of town. Every word was a slap. Everything you told Michael about your ancestral family was a lie. The BMW is leased. The jewelry is borrowed. The brand name clothes you buy in sales or are knockoffs. Michael finally spoke. His voice sounded broken. Is that true, Ashley? She did not answer. She just cried. But they were not tears of regret. They were tears of rage, of humiliation. Mr. Thompson continued relentless. And there is more, Mr. Michael. Your wife has 5 credit cards in her name, all maxed out. Total debt over $150,000 with interest accumulating at 28% annually. Michael staggered. He had to lean on the wall. 5 cards. Ashley, you told me you only had 1 for emergencies. I was going to tell you, she stammered, when they repossessed the house. I took another document. This was the most painful for me to share. But it was necessary. Michael, there is something else you must know. I handed him a paper. He took it with hands that would not stop trembling. Ashley started dating you 3 weeks after her previous relationship ended. A 45-year-old businessman married. She was his mistress for 2 years. He paid for an apartment close trips. When his wife found out and forced him to end it, Ashley looked for a replacement. No, whispered Michael. I am sorry, son. But you needed to know. Ashley did not fall in love with you. She fell in love with what she thought you were, a stable engineer with a mother who would eventually inherit a retirement plan. Ashley exploded. That is not true. I love Michael. All this is because you are a resentful witch who cannot stand her son having his own family. You love him? I asked softly. Then tell me, Ashley, when you canceled my card without asking me. When you served me food on chipped plates while you ate on porcelain. When you made me wait at the door like a beggar. When you hid my cake in the refrigerator so no one would see it. That was love. Love for Michael meant destroying his mother. Silence. Michael looked at me with tears rolling down his face. Mom, I did not know. I did not know I know, son, that is why I am doing this, not to hurt you, but to open your eyes before it is too late. Ashley changed tactics. She knelt in front of Michael, dramatic, grabbing his hands. Love, please do not believe her. She's trying to separate us to ruin our family. Think of our baby. Of our son Michael, looked at her, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes I had ever seen before. Doubt. Ashley, is the thing about the businessman true? She hesitated. Just a second, but it was enough. That was a long time ago before I met you. It means nothing. And the credit cards. Can I explain? And your parents? Your family? Michael, I just wanted you to accept me. I was afraid you would reject me if you knew. If I knew what Ashley, if I knew you lied to me about absolutely everything. His voice rose. Years of frustration, of manipulation, of half-truths exploding finally. Ashley stood up. Her mask had fallen completely. She was no longer the sweet and worried wife. She was a desperate, cornered woman. "So what if I lied?" she screamed. "You never would have looked at me if you knew I come from the slums that my mom sells necklaces on the street. You wanted a princess, right? Well, I gave you what you wanted." "I wanted honesty," replied Michael, his voice broken. "I wanted truth." Ashley laughed, a bitter laugh full of poison. "Truth. Like the truth your mother hid from you for 40 years. At least I lied about my past. She lied about millions of dollars. She turned to me with pure hate in her eyes. You ruined everything. We could have been happy. We could have had a good life, but you could not stand seeing us happy, right?" "You were not happy," I said calmly. "You were building on lies, and lies always collapse. Always. Shut up. Shut up." Ashley grabbed her bag. "I am not staying here listening to this. Michael, we are leaving now." Michael did not move. "Michael, I told you we are leaving." "Know that word, 2 letters, but they sounded like thunder. What did you say?" I said no. "Ashley, I'm not leaving. I need to think. I need to process all this." Process. Ashley was hysterical. "Your mother just humiliated me in front of your whole family. She exposed me. She destroyed me. And you need to think. You lied to me, Ashley, about everything. About your family, your past, the money, everything. Because I loved you. Because I wanted to be enough for you. If you loved me," said Michael, and his voice was pure pain, "you would have respected my mother. You would not have humiliated her. You would not have taken her dignity." Ashley opened her mouth. She closed it. She had no defense for that. "I think you should leave," continued Michael. "For tonight, go to your parents' house. Your real parents, the ones who live in the poor neighborhood. And tomorrow we will talk." "If I leave now," threatened Ashley, her voice dangerous, "I am not coming back." Michael looked at her for a long time. "Then do not come back." The world stopped. Ashley looked at him with disbelief, expecting him to retract, expecting him to run after her, expecting him to beg. But Michael turned around and walked toward me. Ashley remained there frozen for 5 eternal seconds. Then with a scream of fury, she grabbed her bag and left. The door closed with a slam that made the walls shake. The silence she left was absolute. The guests were petrified. No one knew what to say, what to do. Finally, Sarah cleared her throat. "We think it is time to go. Thanks for dinner." One by one, the family slipped away with murmured apologies, with ashamed looks, until only 3 remained: Michael, Mr. Thompson, and me. Michael let himself fall into the armchair, covered his face with his hands, and cried. He cried like I had not seen him cry since he was a child. I sat beside him, put my hand on his back. I said nothing. I was just there. Mr. Thompson discreetly packed the documents. "Mrs. Amelia, do you need anything else from me tonight?" "No attorney, thanks. For everything at your service. Have a good night." He left. And there we were, mother and son in that pretty house that had become a battlefield. Michael finally spoke. His voice was "I am so sorry. I know, my love. I did not know. I did not know what Ashley was doing to you. I did not know. I did not know anything. I know. Why did you never tell me about the money, about everything I breathe deep? Because I wanted you to fall in love with life, not with money. I wanted you to build your own path. But I was wrong, son. I was wrong to hide so much from you, and that created the space for Ashley to manipulate you." He turned to me. His eyes were red swollen. "Now what do I do, Mom? I have a baby on the way, a wife who lied to me, a life that is falling apart." I hugged him, like when he was a child and had nightmares. "Now, my love, you rebuild with truth, with dignity, and I will be here, as I have always been." He cried in my arms until he fell asleep. That night, I covered my 32-year-old son with a blanket. I turned off the lights. I cleaned up what was left of Christmas dinner. And while I washed dishes in that silent kitchen, I asked myself if I had done the right thing. I had destroyed his marriage. I had exposed Ashley. I had revealed secrets that maybe should have stayed buried. But when I saw my reflection in the kitchen window, I saw a woman who had finally recovered her dignity. And that, after all, was worth more than any secret. The days after Christmas were strange, like walking in a world where gravity works differently. Michael stayed at my house in his old room that I had kept exactly as he left it when he went to live alone. Posters of soccer teams, shelves with his school trophies, the twin bed with the blue striped comforter. We did not talk much those first days. He processed. I waited. 3 days after Christmas, Ashley called. It was 11:00 in the morning. Michael watched the phone vibrate on the breakfast table. He let it ring. "Are you not going to answer?" I asked. "I do not know what to tell her." The phone stopped ringing. 30 seconds later, it started again. This time, Michael answered. He put it on speaker. I guess he wanted me to listen. "Michael, we need to talk." Ashley's voice sounded calm. Too calm. Calculated. "I am listening, not over the phone. Come home, please. We need to resolve this like adults. I do not know what is truth and what is lie with you anymore, Ashley." There was a pause when she spoke again. Her voice broke. "I know I messed up. I know I lied to you. But I did it because I love you, Michael. Because I was afraid of losing you. You lied to me about your family, about your past, about the money, about everything. I know. And I am going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. But love, we have a baby on the way. Our son. Are you really going to destroy our family for the mistakes I made master move?" Using the baby as a shield, I saw Michael hesitate. "I am not trying to destroy anything. I am trying to understand who you really are. I am the woman who loves you, the mother of your son. That is what matters. Right?" Another pause. "Your mom put poison in your head, Michael. She showed you papers. She told you half-truths. She manipulated you to hate me. My mom showed me the truth or her version of the truth." Ashley's voice became harder. "Think about it. Well, she hid millions for 40 years. She saw you struggle, work, drown in debt, and never moved a finger to help you. And I am the villain." Michael looked at me, confused, hurt. "Ashley, stop it. No, it is not enough because now your mom has you there in her house under her control. Do you not see what she is doing? She is taking you away from me, from your wife, from your baby. She is repeating the same pattern as always, controlling you. No one controls me." "Oh no, then come home now. Prove to me that you can make your own decisions without your mommy telling you what to do." It was manipulation, pure and crystalline but brilliant. Michael clenched his jaw. "I am coming over, but not to return to talk like you said, like adults. I will wait for you." She hung up. Michael stood up. "Mom, I need to do this. I need to talk to her. Clarify things. I know, son. Go, but go with your eyes open." He left half an hour later. I stayed home knitting a blanket for the baby due in 3 months, hands busy, mind restless. Michael returned 4 hours later. His face was pale, discomposed. What happened? He let himself fall into the armchair. Ashley. Ashley has a plan. What kind of plan? She wants us to go to Coop's therapy to save our marriage. She showed me videos on YouTube about families overcoming crisis. She talked to me about the baby, about how our son deserves united parents. He breathed deep. And then she told me something that froze my blood. I waited. She told me that if I do not return with her, if we do not fix this, she is going to sue me for maximum alimony. She is going to ask for the house. She is going to make this as dirty and painful as possible. I closed my eyes. Of course, when emotional manipulation does not work, threats come. And what did you tell her, that I need time, that I cannot simply erase all the lies and pretend nothing happened? He rubbed his face. Mom, what do I do? I sat beside him. I took his hands. Son, I cannot decide this for you. It is your life, your marriage, your baby. But I am going to tell you what I can offer you. Support. No matter what you decide, even if I go back to her, even if you go back to her, because you are my son, and that is never going to change. He cried again. I do not know if I love her, Mom. I do not know if I ever really loved her, or if I just love the idea of what I thought she was. That is the question you have to answer. The following 2 months were a whirlwind. Ashley intensified her campaign, daily calls, messages, ultrasound photos. Look at your son, Michael. Are you really going to abandon us? She hired a lawyer, threatened with a lawsuit for abandonment of the home for psychological violence, invented stories about mistreatment. But then Mr. Thompson did his job. Mr. Michael, he told him one afternoon in my living room, I have investigated the legal situation. Your wife can sue for alimony. Yes. But given that you did not abandon her, she kicked you out of the house when you discovered her lies, and that there is no proven violence. The judge will be reasonable. And the house. The house is in both names, but you paid the down payment with a loan from your company. I have the documents. In a divorce, it would be divided equitably. Considering the credit card debts she hid, probably you would end up selling and dividing the little that remains. Michael nodded slowly. And the baby shared custody, most likely. You have the right to be a father, Mr. Michael. She cannot take that away from you. But then something happened that none of us expected. At the end of February, 2 weeks before the due date, I received a call, an unknown number. Mrs. Amelia. Yes. Who is speaking? I am Rebecca Sanchez Ashley's mom. My heart accelerated. Mrs. Rebecca, I need to talk to you in person. Can we meet? We agreed on a cafe near my house. I arrived 15 minutes early. I ordered a coffee I did not drink. Rebecca Sanchez arrived on time. 57 years old, gray hair tied back in a ponytail, simple clothes but clean, rough hands from working, tired but kind eyes. She sat in front of me, ordered a tea. Thanks for coming, she said softly. Tell me, Mrs. Rebecca, what do you need? She breathed deep. I need to apologize for my daughter, for everything she did to you. I did not expect that. I know Ashley treated you badly. Michael told me, well, Ashley told me her version, but I know my daughter. I know when she lies. Her eyes filled with tears. I raised her alone after my husband fell into depression. I worked selling whatever to give her an education. But at some point, she decided it would never be enough, that she deserved more, that the world owed her something. It is not your fault, Mrs. Rebecca. Yes, it is, because I allowed it. When she started lying about our life, about our family, I stayed silent because I wanted her to be happy, because I wanted her to have the opportunities I never had. She wiped her tears, but I taught her that lying was okay, that pretending was more important than being honest. And now she is going to have a baby, and I am afraid she will teach him the same. I took her hand, rough, hard-working like mine. What can I do, Mrs. Rebecca? I do not know if I can ask you this, but could you give Ashley a chance? Not for her, for my grandson. That baby is not to blame for his mother's mistakes, Mrs. Rebecca. I would never deny Michael being a father, nor your grandson having his dad. But that does not depend on me. It depends on Michael and Ashley. I know, but you have influence over your son. If you tell him not to go back, I would never tell him that. Michael is an adult. It is his decision. Rebecca nodded. Ashley hates me for coming here. She told me if I spoke to you, she would not let me see my grandson. But I could not stay silent. I needed you to know that not all my family is like her, that some of us do have values. We stayed in silence. 2 mothers, 2 women who had fought all their lives, who had made mistakes, who loved their children despite everything. Mrs. Rebecca? I said, finally, when that baby is born, you are going to meet him. I promise you, no matter what happens between Michael and Ashley, that child is going to have his maternal grandmother in his life. She cried, "Thank you, thank you." We said goodbye with a hug, 2 warriors recognizing each other. That night I told Michael about the meeting. Ashley's mom came to see you. He said, surprised. Yes, she is a good woman, son. Hard-working, honest Ashley did not learn her lies from her. Michael remained thoughtful. You know, I have been thinking about the baby, about being a dad, and I am going to be there for my son always. But that does not mean I have to be with Ashley. Have you decided, yes, I am going to ask for a divorce after the baby is born? I do not want to stress her during the pregnancy, but I cannot continue in a relationship built on lies. I nodded. It is a difficult decision, son, but it is yours, and I respect it. Do you support me with all my heart 2 weeks later, on March 15th, at 3:00 in the morning, Ashley's water broke. Michael received the call. He got dressed in 2 minutes. Mom, it is the baby. Go, son. I will catch up with you at the hospital. I arrived at the hospital 2 hours later. Michael was in the waiting room, nervous, pacing from one side to the other. How is she in labor? The doctors say everything is going well. At 9:43 in the morning, my grandson Matthew was born. 7LB11O, dark hair, closed eyes, perfect. When they let me enter the room, I saw Ashley in bed, exhausted, disheveled, holding the baby. Our eyes met, and in that moment, all the hate, all the war, all the poison evaporated, because there in her arms was my grandson. Blood of my blood, legacy of James, future of our family. Do you want to hold him? Ashley asked softly. I took Matthew in my arms. He smelled new of hope, of a second chance. Hello, my love, I whispered. I am your grandma. And I promise I am going to love you without conditions, without lies, without games, Ashley cried. I do not know if from exhaustion hormones or something deeper. Mrs. Amelia, I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. I looked at her. I really looked at her, and I saw a scared girl who had made terrible decisions trying to escape her past. I know Ashley. I know it was not forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a beginning. The 3 months after Matthew's birth were the strangest of my life, like living in 2 simultaneous realities. In one reality, I was the loving grandmother. I visited Matthew 3 times a week. I brought him clothes. I knitted myself. I held him while Ashley showered or rested. I sang him the same lullabies I had sung to Michael. In the other reality, I was the mother-in-law who had destroyed a marriage. Ashley treated me with cold courtesy. Michael slept in the guest room of his own house. Conversations about divorce were postponed until Ashley recovered from the birth, but we all knew it was a matter of time. In June, 3 months after Matthew's birth, Michael finally did it. He arrived at my house one Saturday afternoon. He sat in the armchair where he had spent so many afternoons of his childhood. Mom, today I spoke with Ashley officially. I asked her for a divorce. My heart tightened. How did she take it? Better than I expected. I think she was also waiting. Living together without being together these months has been unbearable for both. And Matthew shared custody. She stays in the house during the week. I have him on weekends. When he is older, we will adjust. He breathed deep. And Mom, there is something else. Tell me. Ashley wants to sell the house. She says she cannot pay the mortgage alone. That, with the credit card debts, she is drowning. There it was, the inevitable consequence of years of living above her means. And what do you want to do? Honestly, selling would be best. Divide what remains. Start over. He looked at me with those eyes that still melted my heart. But Mom, I do not know if I will be able to. The value of the house went down, with what we owe on the mortgage plus the card debts that are in my name too. We are going to come out owing. How much he took out some papers. He had studied them. He had numbers written down in his small, neat handwriting. The house is worth $2,200. We owe $1,700 on the mortgage. The cards add up to $200,000. Ashley kept spending after Christmas. He did mental calculations. If we sell after paying everything, we are left with like $300,000 to divide $150,000 each. And with that, you have to start from zero. Yes, rent an apartment for me and for when Matthew visits me. Buy furniture, clothes, everything. He laughed bitterly. At 32 years old, starting over like when I was 20, I observed him. My son, my warrior, defeated but not broken. And I made a decision. Michael, there is something I need to tell you. What is it, Mom? I got up. I went to my room. I took out of my safe a manila envelope I had prepared 2 weeks earlier. I returned to the living room. I handed it to him. Open it, he did. Inside were documents. He read them. His eyes widened. Mom, this is the deed to an apartment. That is right. In a nice neighborhood, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, full kitchen, worth a significant amount. I bought it 6 years ago as an investment. And why are you showing me this? Because it is yours. Silence. What I am giving it to you, son. So you have a place to live. So Matthew has a home when he is with you, so you can start over. Mom, no. I cannot accept this. It is too much. It is not too much. It is fair. It is what I should have done years ago. Support you without making you dependent. Give you tools without taking away the hunger to grow. Michael looked at the document with tears in his eyes. But there are conditions, I continued. Conditions, yes. First condition. The apartment is yours, but if you ever sell it, 50% of the profit goes to an education fund for Matthew locked until he turns 18. He nodded. Agreed. Second condition, you pay me symbolic rent $100 a month. Not because I need the money, but because I want you to value what you have, that you never forget that things have a cost. Understood. Third condition. Ashley never ever has access to that apartment. It is your space, Matthew's and yours, a place to rebuild your life without the lies of the past. That is my favorite condition, he said with a sad smile. I hugged him. I love you, son. And I am sorry for not telling you the truth before. I am sorry my silence created the space for Ashley to manipulate you. No, Mom, you are not to blame. I was the fool who believed the lies because I wanted to believe them. We stayed like that, hugging, healing. But I was not finished yet. There was something else I said, separating myself. More, I took out another envelope, this one thinner. This is for Ashley. Michael frowned. For Ashley. Open it. He did. Inside was a check for $100,000. Mom, what is this? It is a gift for Ashley to pay her credit card debts. What, Mom, after everything she did to you, listen to me, son. Listen to me well. I took his hands. Ashley is the mother of my grandson. I do not have to love her. I do not have to be her friend. But I cannot allow my grandson to grow up in poverty because his mother is drowning in debt. But I do not do it for her. I do it for Matthew, and I do it for you, because while Ashley is financially desperate, she is going to be a desperate mother, and that will affect your son. Michael shook his head, incredulous. You are too good, Mom. I am not good. I am practical. This is an investment in my grandson's mental health. I paused. But it also has conditions. Which ones Ashley has to use it only to pay debts? Mr. Thompson will verify that every dollar goes to the banks. If she buys clothes, shoes, anything that is not paying debts, the deal is canceled and I recover the money. And the second condition, Ashley agrees to go to psychological therapy for a minimum of 1 year paid by me. So she works on her problems, her lies, her relationship with money, and if she refuses, then she keeps her debts. Simple. Michael looked at me with admiration. When did you think of all this? I have been thinking about it for 3 months. Since Matthew was born, since I understood that this was no longer about Ashley and me. It was about that baby. The next day, Michael presented my proposal to Ashley. She called me 2 hours later, crying. Mrs. Amelia, I do not know what to say. Say nothing. Just accept the conditions and work on being a better person. For Matthew. Why do you do this after everything I did to you? Because I am a mother before being a victim, and that baby deserves the best, including a mom who is well. Ashley went to therapy religiously every week, at first resisting, then opening up. In August, 6 months after Matthew's birth, they signed the divorce. It was amicable, sad, but necessary. Michael moved into his apartment. He decorated it simply comfortable. He prepared the second room for Matthew with all his love. And every weekend, my grandson arrived at that space. Sometimes I went to visit them. I cooked for Michael. I played with Matthew. We were family again, wounded but healing. One Sunday in October, I received an unexpected visit. Ashley knocked on my door with Matthew in her arms. She was wearing simple clothes, no excessive makeup. She looked real. Mrs. Amelia, can we talk? I invited her in. I made coffee. We sat in my living room. I've been going to therapy, she began as you asked. I know. Mr. Thompson keeps me informed. My therapist asked me to do something to come talk to you to apologize. Really not because I want something in return, but because I need it to heal. I listened. I was horrible to you. I treated you like trash. I humiliated you because it made me feel powerful, because all my life I felt less than everyone. And finally, there was someone who could be beneath me. Tears ran down her face. But you were never beneath me. You built an empire, raised a wonderful son, survived things I cannot even imagine. And I was just a spoiled girl playing queen. Ashley, no, let me finish, please. She breathed deep. I have learned in therapy that all my lies came from fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear that they would reject me if they knew where I come from. But lies only created more fear, more pain. And now, what have you learned? That the truth hurts less than lies. That being poor does not make me less valuable. That my mom, who sells necklaces at flea markets, is more worthy than any businessman I met. She looked at Matthew asleep in her arms. And that, I want my son to grow up knowing the true story of his family, not make-up versions. I approached. I touched her hand. Ashley, I forgive you. I am. Really, really. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means letting go of the poison. It means your mistake no longer has power over me. Thank you. Thank you. She left an hour later, lighter, freer. And I also felt free. The following months were of reconstruction. Michael flourished in his new apartment. He got a promotion at work, started saving again. Ashley continued with her therapy. She sold the leased BMW, bought a modest car, stopped pretending to be who she was not. And Matthew grew surrounded by love from 2 homes, from truth. 1 year after the Christmas explosion, I convened a family meeting. Michael, Ashley, Rebecca Ashley's mom, Mr. Thompson, and me. I gathered you because I need to communicate some decisions. I began. Everyone looked at me expectant. I have updated my will. Silence. Michael, you will inherit one of my apartments in the financial district valued at over $1 million and an investment fund of $500,000. Michael blinked. Mom, wait. I have not finished. I looked at Matthew playing with blocks on the floor. For Matthew, I have created a trust, substantial funds locked until he turns 25 for his education, his future, his dreams. Ashley gasped. Mrs. Amelia, that is too much. It is not for you, it is for him. So he never has to lie about who he is. So he has real opportunities, not fantasies. I continued. The rest of my assets, approximately $3 million, will go to the Amelia Mendes Foundation for Enterprising Widows. Michael smiled. Mom, it is perfect. Women like me, like Rebecca, like so many who are left alone and have to build from scratch. We will give them microloans training support. I looked at Rebecca. In fact, Mrs. Rebecca, I would like you to be part of the board of directors. Rebecca cried. Me you, because you know what it is to struggle and because your honesty is what this foundation needs. That afternoon, we all signed documents. We sealed the future, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. 6 months later, the Amelia Mendes Foundation opened its doors. Small office downtown, 3 employees, a pilot program with 20 women. The opening was simple. Coffee, sweetbread, brave women telling their stories. Michael was there with Matthew in his arms. Ashley came too. Rebecca cut the inaugural ribbon, and me, Amelia, the widow, the seamstress, the woman who built an empire in silence. Finally, I could shout my truth. That night back in my house, I sat in my floral armchair, the same one where I had spent 40 years sowing dreams. I took out an old photo, James and I young hugging in front of our humble little house. We did it, my love, I whispered. Our son is a good man. Our grandson will have a future. And your widow never stopped fighting. I put the photo away, turned off the light, and slept in peace. 3 years later, Matthew is 4 years old. He is a bright, curious, loving boy. He spends weekends with Michael. During the week, he is with Ashley. And every Tuesday and Thursday, he comes to my house. His day with Grandma. We bake cookies. I teach him to use my old Singer machine. I tell him stories of his grandfather, James. Michael got married again to a woman named Helen, elementary school teacher. Simple, honest, kind. The wedding was small, beautiful, real. Ashley also rebuilt her life. She has a boyfriend, a mechanic from her old neighborhood who met her selling at the flea market with her mom. He loves her for who she is not, for who she pretends to be. The foundation has helped 200 women in 3 years. Some have opened businesses, others have paid debts. All have recovered dignity. And me, I am 71 years old. I keep sewing. No longer for money, for love. Every stitch is a prayer. Every garment is a legacy. Yesterday, Matthew asked me, Grandma, why do you work so much if you are already rich? I knelt in front of him, touched his perfect little face. My love, I do not work for money. I work because every stitch reminds me who I am, where I come from, and where I am going. And where are you going, Grandma? I smiled. Towards a future where you, my beautiful boy, know that true value is not in what you possess. It is in what you build and how you treat others, in the dignity you never allow them to take from you. He hugged me. I love you, Grandma, and I love you, my sky. And I love you. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you follow us from. What lesson do you take away? Have you ever had to defend your dignity in front of your own family? Share your experience. Like if you believe dignity has no price, and subscribe to keep listening to stories of women who rise, who fight, who never give up. Because in the end, true wealth is not in what you keep in the bank. It is in what you never allow them to take from you. Your name, your truth, your dignity. May this story remind you that it is never too late to recover your voice, to set limits, to say enough. Until the next story, take care of yourselves and never, never forget your worth. The end.